What's going on, YouTube? Thanks for tuning into the channel. It's your boy Devin Coates. This is day 4, 48 days with the 48 laws. You can pick up a link to the book in my description below. I know my website kind of looks like ass. I'm going to fix it. But get it done. Don't get it perfect. So you can pick up the book. If you get any value, I would appreciate you picking it up from that link because it is an affiliate link. But let's just jump in because this is one of my favorite chapters. This is law number 4. Always say less than necessary. Judgment. When you're trying to impress people with words, the more you say, the more common you appear and the less in control. Even if you're saying something banal, it will seem original if you make it vague, open-ended, and sphinx-like. Powerful people impress and intimidate by saying less. The more you say, the more likely you are to say something foolish. So there is a very great reason why I love this law, and it's because this is the law I break the most. I have a problem with over-explaining shit, and first let me jump in, then I'll kind of make my personal connections to it. But it's a very, very short law, very short chapter. You know, you had to say less than necessary. But first, he talks about this war hero, Coriolanus. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. Basically, in Rome, some point in the thousands year, he was a great war hero. It was like in 12 different battles, and he was like a legend. Nobody really heard him speak, but everybody heard about all the fucking things he had done, and all the things he accomplished. So then he ran basically for king or emperor, I don't really know. He ran for office, for like the head of the office, whatever, in Rome, whatever that may be at the time. And he's running, and he pretty much had a sure shot to win. And then he decided to give a speech. And nobody really heard his speech, but they saw all his battle wounds and all the scars he had for Rome. So people didn't really listen to his speech, but they were moved to tears from the bravery that all the scars symbolized. Then the day before the election, he rolls in with all the patricians, which are the high people in Rome at the time, the Senate, and all these and nobles and all these people with a lot of money. Basically, he rolls in, looks super cocky doing that. Everybody's kind of taking off. Then he gives another fucking speech. This time, people listen to what he was saying. Basically, he's telling all these jokes and really appeasing to all the rich people. He sounded super arrogant, bragging all about his military conquests, and then all the people are like, "Damn, we're about to all vote for this guy," but he's just a common braggart. So basically, they roll out in high numbers. They vote against him. He loses. He's pissed off. Then becomes a time when there's a grain distribution. They just got a huge shipment of grain. The Senate basically is about to go for the grain distribution to give it all to the people and not really make them pay a lot for it. Because Coriolanus is so fucking bitter, he jumps up over there and he's like, nah, like, fuck that. I don't like democracy. We should get away from democracy. Democracy's stupid. And I don't think that you should distribute all the grains to all the people. And we should give all the power to the patricians and basically all the rich people. And the people shouldn't have power and stuff like that. And then the people get wind of this and they're like, yo, what the fuck? This dude needs to come to us and apologize and repent for what he said, and we'll allow him to go over to the battlefield. And basically they start rioting and getting all pissed. Coriolanus doesn't want to appear, and the Senate basically doesn't agree with what he says and goes with the people. They distribute all the grains, but they are not giving up on the fact this guy needs to talk to us. So he's supposed to come talk to them, and he refuses once again, and then they're really pissed. And then they basically say that we want him to some cliff. I guess that's just the way it was done back then. Is like, we want him to be condemned to death and to be thrown off of this cliff and killed. And basically that kind of gets passed, but the Senate, or no, the patricians, I think, intervene because that's kind of their boy, and he has been kind of having their back in some. He's always trying to support their cause, and they're like, nah, like, let's just banish him forever. And basically he gets banished forever, and all the people throw a huge celebration in the streets, bigger than any of the victories he was ever part of for Rome. So basically the interpretation was he could have had everything he wanted if he just shut the fuck up and just let his battle scars speak for himself. He would have been in office, and then he could have removed democracy the way he wanted, but he talked so much he got kicked out of his own country he fought for all those years. Next one story was, so that was a transgression. The next one was an observance. It was Louis the 14th. Very simply, when he was king, whenever he had a problem or an issue that needed consulting, he'd have his whole court, all the nobles, all the people would argue, but amongst themselves about what would impress him, what would he want to hear, what should we say. Eventually, it get drilled down to two people. Two people come to him, then they're like, I think opinion A should happen. Other guy, I think opinion B should happen. Explain it to him. Then he goes, I shall see. And that was it. And then he left. No more consulting with anything. He didn't even bring it back up. The only way they knew the result was by what he did in the weeks to come and the actions he made. And that was it. So he always kept it very light. And people couldn't trick him because they never knew what he wanted to hear because he didn't say anything. So they didn't know if they said something good. They didn't know if they offended him. He always kept people on their heels kind of wondering. And it brought him great power because nobody really ever knew what the decision was. It was like, you got to watch and wait and see, and you got to stay on your toes. So those were the real examples he gave. And there was a couple cool quotes that I picked out of the book. One was that the human tongue is a beast that few master. I really like that line, and I think that's very true. And Andy Warhol had a quote where he was saying to a friend, he was like, you actually have more power when you shut up. And I find this to be very true. And then in the in the Keys to Power, there was another story in Russia where like this guy, basically there's an overthrow in Russia. New Tsar Nikolai the First comes to power, and they are hanging this guy Rylev. And for some reason, it's not really a big deal, but basically an overthrow. So a old guy was in power is getting hung, gets hung, rope breaks. Back then, those things would be looked at as like a heavenly, divine intervention. And if that happened, you'd be pardoned. Rylev, after it breaks, he goes, see, in Russia, they can't do anything right. They can't even make a rope. And basically, after it happened, the messenger goes to Nikolai the First and's like, yeah, it broke. So he's like, all right, we'll write a pardon because obviously the gods want this guy to live. And then he's like, wait, hold up. After he signs it, he's like, wait, hold up. Did he say anything after? He goes, yeah, he said, in Russia, they can't even do anything right, not make a rope. So he goes, rips it up, and he goes, all right, let's prove him to the contrary. Let's make a rope. They hang it this time, rope doesn't break, and he fucking dies. So he's talking too much. But really the key to power, and all he really gets into on this, is that it's just really important to not talk so much. The more you talk, the more common you sound. The more you can run into saying something stupid, the more people can read your intentions. And the dumber you seem. And I can really tie this to my own life and the profession I pick in just many areas. I have talked myself out of everything. I've talked myself to offend people. I've talked myself into trouble. I've talked myself out of money, and I've talked myself out of pussy. I've talked myself so many times in bad situations. And the profession I'm in right now and the skill that I'm really cultivating has most of my focus is sales. And that is because, and that is why this chapter is really big. Now, a lot of people in the conception is the slick salesman that's talking and talking and talking and talking and talking. But that's really not what works in fucking sales. The more you talk, the dumber you fucking sound. And the more you sound like you're trying to trick somebody, and then they stop believing you, and you actually have no idea what the customer wants. And the most important part where this happens is when you're talking about price. So you say, the price is $5 a user. The inexperienced salesman is gonna go, it costs $5 a user. And it's because it costs, and that's why, because it costs this much, and is that a good price, and where is it for you, and what we can do is we can discount it, and then it could be $4 a user, and if you can send, there's a rebate, and then it could be $2 for a user, and how's that? And actually, and that's what a lot of people will do. And I'm not going to say I've done shit like that too. And that's where it makes your price sound like shit. It sounds like you made it up. You sound stupid, and it's just really ineffective. What you're supposed to do is say it costs $5 per user. Now, when would you like to have delivery of your new product? Or actually, you're supposed to smile. And then you just pass it back to them. Shut the fuck up and let them talk. And I mean, that goes in so many different areas of your life that you sound more powerful and you're more in control when you're not talking. Like, if you're on a fucking date and you're talking, I'm this great guy, and you're just trying to improve, I'm great, and I'm fucking great, and my ex fucking tried to cut my dick off, and she ripped my child support and all this other shit. I mean, these are not really things I've ever said, but um, you're gonna ruin the fucking date. You should just let her talk, figure out what the fuck she's about, and then figure out the few words you need to say. And I don't know, I like confident people. No, 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 no. All right, now I'm just gonna make sure I look confident. It's like, oh, no, 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 no. I like people that are men of their words. Okay, let me track that. And you want the other person to talk. Same thing in sales. It's like, dude, I want to know what sells you. I'm really worried that because the last time I bought a product like this, that it fucking broke. I want to make sure that this one doesn't break. Okay. You know, the greatest thing about this product is that there is a lifetime warranty. You know, it's like the more you listen, the more you'll get. It's like the person that's talking is the person that's going to be put in a position where you know their intentions and you know what they're about and you know how to say what they need to hear. And I'm not saying that that's necessarily what you should do, but the more vague you are, the more mysterious you are as well. So people will start to, especially in more of in sales, it's like you don't want to sound too mysterious as a salesperson because then you're gonna sound like you're fucking like lying to them or something. You definitely, or I mean, they want to know about your product. You want to explain it, but you don't want to over explain it because then it sounds like there's something you're trying to cover up, and you're more apt to say something. Because I mean, with any product, there are limitations. You don't want to start saying the limitations that are with. You want to say the value add. You want to throw it out there, and then you want to know what they think. Same thing with a girl. You want to know. You want to say what your intentions are. Make those clear, and then you want to hear what she's about. And if she starts asking you questions, give her one word answers. Don't get too caught up on yourself. It's more about figuring out how to make this work from your side, you know. And I mean, those are the two areas where I've seen it personally play out like time and time again, like for me in the negative, because I have this mental. I know there's just this belief that has to be in me that I just feel like people don't understand what I'm saying, and I over explain myself. I do it constantly, but I really like this law. It's something that I do come back to, and there's a few laws that I'll just point out when it kind of comes back. It comes back over and over and over. And I mean, I'm kind of dipping into a future law. I don't really know it verbatim. When I get to it, I'll refer back to this, but it's like this really comes into the one that's like using absence to increase your value. And I like the way that those kind of come up. And same thing with concealing your intentions. Like saying less than necessary helps you conceal your intentions. And the more you remove your presence, how much people know about you, the higher your value goes. Because people start thinking about you. And that's just how the human mind works. It's going to fill in the gaps. You know, if you actually think about even something like your eye, how it was made and how evolution was created, everybody actually has a blind spot directly in the center of their eye. It's just how we were made and adapted. So I don't really know where I was going with that. So you're gonna fill in the blanks. You don't when you look, you don't see like, oh, there's a blind spot in my eye. Your face kind of fills in the blanks for you. But there's a blind spot in the middle of every single person's eye, just with the way we're evolutionarily created. So that's just how the human mind works with everything. I mean, even if you think about memories, when you hear stuff, you will fill in the blanks. If you're trying to sing a song and you feel like you know all the words, and then you turn it off, and then you start to realize, I don't know all the words. But when it was playing, you were making sounds like you knew all the words because your mind just wants to fill in the blanks. And when you give that little step back, it lets people's mind run. And that's when they get a little more attached to you because they need to figure it out. So that's why I'm going to end with this one. That's law number 4. Always say less than necessary. I guess I talked a lot for explaining the law like that. But you can pick up the book. Link is in the description below. It'll take you to my site. My site is heavily under construction. The only thing that's really on it is this link, but please pick it up from there. It is an affiliate link. I would appreciate it if you did. If you're reading along, that's the way you're going to get the value, not just listening to my explanations, but my explanations will be up forever in perpetuity, until as long as YouTube is working. The things that I would just like to say, I mean, do you feel like you have a problem of saying less than necessary? Why? Actually, that's the first question. And number 2 is, why do you think that saying less than necessary is a very important quality to have? And then 3, because I didn't really get into the reversal, why do you think that there would be a time when you shouldn't say less than necessary, and that would be more effective? So just a couple things to think about. Put your comments below. If you have any answers to questions, any comments, anything, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. It's your boy Devin Coates, and until next time, peace. You know what it is.